Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wav Podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture and Rogue Matter right here every week on Facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts and YouTube.com/Rogue Matter. I am your host, Michael Dolce, as always joined by my cohort in crime, Mr. Hassan Godwin, Lord of the Radio. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. Everything's great. Everything's fantastic.
I love it. I love the enthusiasm. It's late at night. Well, it's early if you're on the West Coast. We have exciting news tonight, though. Tonight's episode is not episode 79. It is officially...
It is not?
It is officially season 2, episode 1. That's pretty exciting, right?
Yes. It's great that we got picked up for another season.
Now... You might ask.
Would have been better if I knew about that like last week, so I could say, "Hey, we got picked up for another season over the week." But I just found that out just now, so that's a little, but it's okay. Sorry.
You might be asking, like, why are we season 2, episode 1? Like, is there is 78 episodes is like longer than a year, and 79 is nothing really to write home about. It's because you ready for the answer?
That.
Because
yes,
the beta launch of RogueMatter.com has ended. We are now officially launching the site, and we're starting with McBride and Groom, written and created by friend of the show, Steve Hovecki. Go to the website, go check it out. It's totally free. If you sampled any of this stuff before, great. You got to take part in the beta launch, which was amazing, but we've pulled everything back. And we're going to start releasing new content weekly on RogueMatter.com starting next week. This is the first thing that is new, is us and McBride and Groom #1. And then so every Wednesday, we're going to have something new on the site, new comics, new everything. And definitely get on the email list because we have some great contests and giveaways coming up that we want you to know about. And you can also stay in the know when it comes to the new content that is launching. What do you think of that, Hassan?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I love it.
I'm enthusiastic. This is my enthusiasm.
Well, that's what I like. I like seeing
Face.
I like seeing enthusiasm from you. I like seeing
I'm very animated right now.
Yeah.
Very I'm moved. I'm very moved.
Are you really? I feel
I'm moved.
All right. Okay.
I don't seem.
So I have other big news.
But I'm not moved enough.
It's good.
What's the other big news?
It's good. You've gotten bitter, but it's good. I finally watched episode 3 of What If. I was like hanging around and I'm like, what?
Wait, hold on. You'll have to refresh my memory. Which one was episode 3? Because that was a while ago for the rest of us.
It was the one with what if Earth's Mightiest Heroes never were formed, and it had Loki. It had the
yes.
Yeah. So it had a little bit of everything. A throwback to the original Avengers being formed, Nick Fury. It had, it was. I gotta tell you, the series itself, a little flat for me. I'm not gonna lie. A little flat.
You're finding What If in total very flat.
Yeah, like it's not as exciting a show. It could be because it's animated. It could very well be that, right? I do have a bias toward animated shows. Mm-hmm. I will say this. Here's a positive that I can say for it. I can watch it if I just want to kill like 30 minutes and be like quasi-entertained. Like I was into it. Like at no point did I want to turn it off. But at no point am I watching this with the same level of intensity as I did like Loki or WandaVision or any of the theatrical releases like Shang Chi or anything to that extent. Like I feel like
well, I mean, it's a TV show, so I mean, it's not gonna have the theatrical feel of a movie as a TV show, right? Theoretically.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, but I was into WandaVision like big time because I know it's really gonna play into, like, I guess that's my whole thing, right? Like I don't think any of these things are going to really impact the Marvel Universe in any way, shape, or form.
Right, but I mean, how do you know that though?
I don't. It's an educated guess, but I'm also sitting there saying, like, at what point could this show, and like, really, like, I don't know, like, it's something about it where I'm just.
I mean, okay, so basically you consume entertainment, you watch things because they're going to probably have a big impact somewhere along the line.
Nah, but you get into a storyline, right? You get into a running storyline. Like right now, it's just the Watcher.
I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm going off of what you're saying. So you're saying like you're saying that none of this is really going to matter and none of this is going to have a big impact. So why should you watch it? So then the natural question is like, is that why you watch most of the stuff you watch? Because it's going to have a big impact eventually.
No, I would sit there and say that is the MO for the Marvel Universe, though. Obviously, like you get into it more, when it's gonna, you get into watching it because you don't want to miss a piece of the puzzle, right? Like, I mean, I think there's some aspect to that, but television shows in general, I mean, these are all kind of like one-offs, right? They're essentially these what ifs. They're basically kind of taking stuff that you know and love about the Marvel Universe, kind of flipping them on their head a little bit. If you weren't like us and grew up with the what if comics, this kind of thought process, it could be kind of new. But I think my reaction to the what if cartoon is the same reaction I had to the what if comics. Once in a while there would be a really cool one. Like I remember like the what if Dark Phoenix hadn't been killed, or Wolverine hadn't killed the Dark Phoenix. There was something cool about that I was like, I remember that it was like a two-parter, something about Dark Phoenix, and they did a what if, and it was really like, because I was really into X-Men at the time, so it kind of like hit home, but at the same time it didn't have any impact. It was just a good story and I was kind of into it. But other than that, I can't think of a single other what if anything, right? Like I can't think of anything that might be categorized as like a what if comic that I can remember that had any, that got me really excited to continue watching or continue picking up the book. It's the same analogy, right? It's like, what makes you pick up the comic, right?
I mean, okay. It's weird though, because it seems like, I don't know. Never mind. I'm not going to make a speculation. So it's just like, what happens to just watching something because you enjoy watching it? If you don't enjoy watching it, you don't enjoy watching it. That's fine. I mean, but how come you can't just say, I don't like it, right? It's got to be like, because there's no cultural impact to it. It's like, well, how do you know that though?
No cultural
you don't
impact. That's
know
that,
this thing. You know what I mean? I'm not. I'm semantics. I'm just making.
No. All right. Let me rephrase
like,
what I'm going to say. I'm not enjoying it, not because it doesn't have a cultural impact or an impact on the Marvel Universe, right? Like, so let's sit there and say it's not like that's the case that I'm not watching it. I would sit there and say I could get through, like, say, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I didn't like, right? Overall, I thought it was inconsistent and uneven. But I watched it because it's going to impact the rest of the Marvel Universe, so it became kind of mandatory if you want to keep up on the story. What if, to me, is I enjoy it more than Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I don't love it. And I don't, like, it's not like I'm dying to see the next episode. They're fun, right? They're fun, right? Steve Ovecki said they're fun. There's lots of fun what if stories. They're fun.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, what happens to just watching them because they're fun? That's a comment I hear quite often. It's like, well, it's not having a big impact. It's not moving me like the movies do. Well, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, they're fun. I can testify that they're fun. They may not be fun to you.
Yeah.
But I'm having fun watching them. If I agreed with you, I would agree with you. I'd be like, yeah, they're not that good. And I have said on the show that, compared to the first two, some of the other ones are a little flat, emotionally. They're a little emotionally flat. And I get that. But I mean, cultural, like the significant impact on the MCU, you don't know that yet, right? We're about to we're doing everything with the multiverse.
Sure.
The what if is all about the multiverse. It's bound to have, it's bound to have some resonance throughout the next phase of Marvel. So that's unfounded. that observation so far is unfounded. So, I mean, it makes more sense that you just don't like the show or you don't like animation than you're not really into it because it's not going to do anything, or theoretically, make a difference.
I would sit there and say it hasn't made an emotional impact in any way, shape, or form either. It hasn't to me. And I actually liked episode 3 more than I liked episode 1 and 2, believe it or not.
Okay.
I don't know why. I can't even tell you. Maybe just because it had all the Avengers. It kind of had.
I didn't ask you why. I mean, it doesn't
actually
require...
I'll tell you why. Because it had like that little like whodunit kind of thing. But then it was a little bit of a letdown at the end. But I would sit there and say,
it's not your show. Obviously, if it's been on this long and you just grudgingly got around to watching the 3rd episode, I would say it's probably not your show.
Yeah. Now, if let's say down the road it does have an impact, like so, Steve Ovecki commented on the Facebook feed, like what if they bring in something from the What If show, which I think it's still highly unlikely it's going to happen, but that's just my own prediction.
Then you'll be a pathetic poser for going back and then having to retcon.
No, then I would go back. I would absolutely go back.
But that's poserish.
That's fraud. You think is that fraudulent? Is that fraudulent for me?
Yeah, you should stand by your convictions. If you don't like it, and F it, then that's just information I don't get because I don't like it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a
good question. Is that fraudulent fandom?
It is. It's fan fraud. It really is.
So let's say you are in the hospital and you miss Eternals. Because something happened, you had to get your appendix out.
Yes,
and you're like, I just can't go to the theater to see Eternals.
Hopefully this is all speculatory, and this is not.
It's funny. My mind immediately went to the worst, like the darkest possible outcome.
Exactly.
That could happen.
And I don't want to have.
Well, I'm trying to think, like, what could knock you out for a while, and then like the next.
Do not listen to Dolce.
The next thing of Marvel comes out. Are you not allowed then to go back to Eternals?
No, I am allowed because I was a fan, and something universally bad happened, so that just to stop me from being able to adhere to my allegiance to fandom. But if I'm like F the Eternals, I'm not watching that because there's swords in it and F swords. I hate swords, right? And then you find out, well, if you didn't watch the Eternals, then you can't watch Captain Marvel and you can't watch Spider-Man, you can't watch X, Y, and Z. Oh, well, I'm going to go back and watch it. That's fraudulent fandom. That's bad. That's bad.
I think you're allowed to go back just to fill in the blanks, right?
No, you don't get to.
If I were to come out, here's what I'll tell you. This is fraudulent.
Listen, I'm going to take the L on Venom, right? Because I am vehemently opposed to watching Venom, right?
Very true.
If it comes back to Venom, it's $1 billion movie that changed the scope of Sony Marvel relationship or whatever, and then 88 of the last Spider-Men are in the movie, and it's just a kick-ass like roller coaster ride. And then I go back and watch it, like, you know what? I actually did enjoy it. I thought it was a good use of my time. That's fraudulent.
Yes, but that's my point.
Fraud.
What if I come back and go, I still didn't like What If, but I watched it so I understood the story for the next thing?
That's fraudulent.
I think I'm allowed. I'm allowed. I'm allowed a little revisionist.
No. You had your chance when it was new and vibrant and trending. You had your chance, and now you let that window close. So now when you go back in that window, I
highly respect your opinion. I'm not going to lie on this. I usually disagree vehemently. I highly respect it.
I don't know what to do with that though. What do we? Now that the momentum of the show slowed down completely, we can't. We're not supposed to agree on anything. It's
a good thing because the other big thing that dropped was the Star Wars Visions.
Yes, which is another cartoon. So like, should I even pose the question to you, Mr. Dolce, as to whether or not you did your family duties?
I'm going to tell you right now. First of all, it dropped. It dropped this morning?
Well, yeah, I guess you could say today. It dropped today.
Yeah, we don't want to do that to our fans who haven't had a chance to see it yet. Plus,
do what to the fans? Tell them that you think it was stinky. That you said, oh, cartoon's icky, and then you just decided to skip it.
We just don't want to spoil for that.
You don't want. That's not a spoiler. People, you just said that. We just established that with What If, right? That you're just not an animation guy.
No, I didn't spoil.
Because
I
you're
didn't
a comic book
spoil
guy,
Thor
but-
for you. See, all right. Sorry, I didn't spoil. You didn't spoil the latest episode of What If for me. See, that was good.
I wouldn't do that. I'm not a spoiler person. I don't like things being spoiled, and therefore, in the aspect of doing to others, I try not to spoil things for other people.
As a Star Wars
that's
aficionado, and what's a good word for someone who likes like a fan? But you're not. You're more than a fan. You're like this is like religion. to you.
I would refer to it as respectfully as a executive devotee of Star Wars.
Oh.
That's what I would call it.
An ED.
Yes,
Okay.
I am an ED.
There's a joke in there somewhere, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, but I'm not gonna look too deep into it.
There's
We've
something
coined
there.
we've coined a lot of phrases in this show. This is a
Yeah.
show particular for phrases.
So
But,
did you get up at 4:30 in the morning?
I don't want to tell you when I got up to go see. I didn't know it was going to be. I didn't know it was dropping this morning.
Yeah.
Or today, particularly until I logged on to Disney Plus to see What If to check out the What If episode.
There you go.
And I saw Thursday, Star Wars Visions, and they dropped the entire season in one go. So it's not a weekly excursion, and so I did.
And you
I
like
did
that
what
much
I
better
thought
too.
I had to
right?
do as a fan. I do. I prefer that, but I understand the business. So I get why everybody's doing the week to week thing. I understand.
Here's the funny part. The one show that I am consuming.
It wasn't how the format was sold to us, so they're back.
Netflix is the only one that sold that format. Netflix is the only one that promised.
And
you that.
everybody's ripping off the Netflix format. So
No, they're
them.
not. They're not. They're
They
adhering to their
were.
own format.
Amazon absolutely ripped off the Netflix format up until The Boys.
Right. And then
Up
they
until
realized that the Disney Plus format was way better for business. Like way better for business, no question about it. But let me ask you a question.
Well,
now.
obviously not, because Disney Plus just dropped an entire season, so it's not like they're opposed to doing it themselves.
The one show that I am almost 100% caught up on, I have about half an episode to go, is Ted Lasso. And I would prefer that they would have dropped the whole season all at once.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's
there you
weird.
go.
I think it just depends on the show.
So it has nothing to do with marketing and business or whatever. It has to do with whether you want it or whether you don't want it.
Yes.
Right. That's
Yes.
your
Everything
opinion of
revolves
it
around-
alters
Everything revolves
based
around
on
my
your level of
desire
interest.
to watch something and how I would like it.
Okay.
Steve Ovecki said, we're not talking about comics. We stopped talking about it. But we're talking about how they drop comic book related material.
You know what? I love Steve, but he's like, at this point, I suspect he's a professional troll at this point. I suspect he's being paid to rattle our
Don't
cage.
tell anybody about that. But
Oh,
go
shoot.
on roguematter.com and read McBride and Groom #1 right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's great.
He missed. I think he missed our commercial for him.
I think he did too, actually. The whole like first 2 minutes of the show were all about Steve Ovecki. He gets the honor.
Yeah, and now he's roasting us in our own comment section. But okay, that's all right.
It's unfair. Right. It's unfair. What do you guys think?
For
Would I be a fraudulent fan to go back? I don't think I would, but I respect Hassan's definitive opinion on that. And which format do you like better? Talk about it in the chat. We're on YouTube as well. We're on youtube.com/RogueMatter. We're on Facebook. Check it out. Chat in the chat box. We will respond back. When we come back, we are going to go back into... We're going to do the Wayback Machine. We're going to do a trailer truth or trash on Shang-Chi. We're going to see, did the trailer live up to the movie when we come back? Welcome back to the Rogue Wave Podcast.
Gave our family
So Hassan was joking. Before we get into the trailer, which just flashed on there, what did you think of Star Wars Visions?
It was okay. let's talk about the trailer.
That's it? In between this break right here, you just made a big stink about how I didn't actually ask you about Star Wars Visions.
It's an anthology from studios, different anime styles and stuff. So that's it by design is hit or miss.
Okay.
You know, some are and it depends on who's watching whether it's a hit or a miss, right? So something I say is a miss might be a big hit for a lot of other fans. It's interesting. It's really well done. You know, there's really good stuff in it, so it should be watched. There are more good ones than quote unquote not so good ones, because I don't think any of them are bad. It's just more interesting content if you have time for something that's merely interesting but not going to make a deep cultural impact on the future.
I never use the word
whatever.
Cultural. I never use the word cultural. I mean from a story point of view, like if it's going to make an impact on the larger story.
I'm mocking you and paraphrasing at the same time.
That's fair.
You know,
it's a fair.
I'm allowed to do that. That's in the format. That was in the business plan.
Yes, it's okay. It's fair. It's fair to mock. All right, this is one of my favorite segments. This is Trailer Truth or Trash, but we've revamped it, and I think we've got it to a point that is, I'd say, like perfect. Like right, if like we had to think of like what is the most perfect segment, this has to be it.
Oh, don't call it perfect. Don't
I'm not saying it's going to be executed well. I'm just saying the concept of it is fantastic.
I mean, all right. Okay, never mind.
I'm warning you. Back on the trailer.
I'm just warning you the karmic damage that you could do by declaring it.
Okay.
But okay, never mind. Just go ahead.
We look back on the trailer. Now we're going to do this going forward in a much better, even in a greater way. We determine that we're gonna rate our trailers as they come out. And then we'll be able to go back to the videotape kind of thing, like really go back to the videotape. But really what it comes down to is we're going to watch this first trailer of Shang Chi, and we're going to put it up against the movie. Did it live up to what the trailer was setting us up to believe? Right? So we're either going to truth it, like that trailer was truth, or we're going to trash it. So here we go. We are going to rock the trailer for everybody. It's a 2-minute little thing. We'll probably get kicked off of YouTube for showing it, but you know, whatever. It's part of the deal here. Here they go. They've got this thing going on. The flag is going. 10 rings. Okay, boom. 10 rings.
If you want them to be yours one day,
and immediately
you
we're
have
like,
to show me you are strong enough to carry them.
That is definitely going to be point number one that we're going through for sure.
You are a product of all
it's all about this. Oh, okay. Now they kind of staring at a mountain. Like, what does that mountain mean? There's this woman dancing. It's his mom. Oh, his mom's a good guy. His dad's a bad guy, right? Like those are the two.
Those are the impressions you're getting from just watching the trailer. Okay.
Right. All of that.
I told my men they
fighting
wouldn't be able to kill me if they
warrior,
tried.
clearly dressed up in the ancient Chinese warrior garb. Perhaps a deity? Would you say a deity?
Glenn, I was right.
I would say there's some spiritual significance to that.
He's just a criminal.
So he's going to be like the big bad, is really what it comes down to. Like, you're going to get, when was the big bad, that guy's going to be Indiana Jones shit.
You're the speculation guy, but I would ask, by looking at that,
that's the impression I got. He's going to be the Indiana Jones.
He's going to be
big bad guy.
Level somewhere in the story. Okay.
Yeah. Then it's like there's splashing water, there's buckets crashing, there's rings flying. Oh, there's a line. I missed that in the trailer. I missed that completely.
You can't run from your past.
I just see a lot of martial arts action. He sees a dragon underwater. I felt like that was maybe like a dream sequence. Is this what you wanted? Something like that. But now he's fighting his dad. Again, so they give away the big bad. There's definitely the big bad is definitely around him. And here we go. Finally.
You got this.
The little throw in at the end of the trailer was the abomination. And it looked like he was fighting Shang-Chi, right? Like it looked like he was fighting Shang-Chi. All right.
I didn't, like, to be honest with you, when I saw that, I didn't even know that was Abomination because he looks a little different from the way Abomination, and we haven't seen Abomination in over a decade. So,
yes. Now here's the funny part, right?
He was still around.
I remember saying that. I'm like, I had no idea that was Abomination. Of all the creatures to have been, to have brought back into the Marvel Universe. I never would have guessed that. But it looked like he's fighting Shang-Chi, right? I mean, that's kind of what the trailer...
I mean, for however much thought give to that 1 second of imagery.
Yeah.
For sure. Why he's in an arena situation, right, as all most of our heroes end up in, as we found Logan in, as we found, I mean, like it always had, there's a Fight Club situation.
It did look like Fight Club, right?
Yeah, the character's in a state of self-flagellation,
mm-hmm,
and destroying themselves and putting themselves through the ringer,
yep,
because of some kind of mental conundrum that they're going through, or some kind of penance. It happens a million times. So you would figure even Spider-Man was in an arena in the beginning, right?
Right.
So you'd figure that's just pretty much what the situation is. I did not know that that was Abomination, but it did clue me in that we were going to be 1 foot in the fantasy door, by watching.
Would you call it that? I would have said that would have been like the MCU door. Like the lion, which I missed completely, knocking that guy over in the original trailer. Like, I mean, we didn't do like a scene by scene breakdown. That's just way too much effort to do. But I remember missing that in the initial trailer. Like it didn't even hit me in that initial trailer that there was a lion knocking somebody over.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you see a giant green monster at the end of the trailer, that's okay. Obviously, we're a giant green monster with fins and stuff like that. Clearly, it's not the Hulk, right? So we're 1 foot in fantasy land. Plus,
I got more of a gritty vibe.
Mysticism. There's paintings coming to life. There's ninjas. Would look like ninjas, but they're really Chinese warriors. So they're not ninjas. There's there's accordion buses coming to pieces, in the midst of a fight in the middle of the city. So obviously, we are not dealing with a gritty, realistic Gothic, Telltale kind of situation. We're dealing with a hyper realized, superhero or fantasy aspect situation. That's what I got from it.
My initial impression of it, though, was that it was going to be more of a gritty martial arts style film, and it had a lot of that in it. And I'm not saying that it wasn't truth in the final film, but there was a lot of it that what I ended up watching on screen was so much different than what I thought was going to be in terms of the fantastical land that they inhabit. You know what I mean?
So you're saying then trash then?
Yeah, I'm gonna trash the setup. To be honest with you, yeah, I'm gonna trash the setup. So here's the thing: we got first of all, they had the intro of the rings, right? Rings versus rings, like rings on the finger.
Bracelets.
Yeah, right. They're like literally bracelets. They do an adequate job of kind of explaining that in the movie, though, as to what he even kind of makes fun of it because of the whole Trevor Slattery thing. So, and quite frankly, it did look cooler, to be honest with you, to have them as bracelets than to just be shooting glowing.
I don't know. I've always been partial to Mandarin's rings, but I get it, and I get the shaky cultural ground that all of it stands on. Mm-hmm. So I get like tweaking it to some extent for out of respect to the culture that it's coming from. So fair enough. But they are bracelets. Bracelets in effect are rings.
Yes, they are ring shaped.
So fine. Yes, they're rings. They're configured into rings, right? So bracelets, ostensibly are rings. They're just large rings for your wrist instead of for your fingers. So fair.
I can't wait till we do
this. They are the
Dune.
10 bracelets, though.
Like I think Dune's the next one up, the next movie up.
I believe so.
Yeah,
in a couple of weeks.
See, we're gonna
Venom, right? Aren't you gonna?
Oh, that's right.
Aren't you gonna dive right into Venom?
Oh.
Which you will be doing alone because I'm not a fan fraud.
I have been waiting to do the show alone for many, many years. You just keep showing up.
I know.
I know. I don't know how it happens.
You keep changing the time, and I'm like, nope, I figured you out.
You zero in on that pretty fast. Yeah. You're like, damn it. It's like I can't fool you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Here are the trailer truth or trash. Wenwu is the big bad. I'm gonna say trailer.
I'd say it's kind of a truth. I'd say I got that impression also, but it's kind of a truth.
It's a half truth, right?
It's a truth.
Because he's like a sympathetic bad guy, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't mean that he's. It didn't say you wouldn't have sympathy for him. Yeah. It just said he's going to be the bad guy.
Yep.
So that's the truth.
All right. So truth for Wenwu. Painted Chinese deity warrior. Now,
did you look up what his kabuki meant? Did you do that? Did you break form and look at? No, you didn't.
No.
You didn't do that. All right. So
no,
yeah.
I want to call him Indiana Jones' secondary big bad.
You got to explain that for the uninitiated.
So in Raiders of the Lost Ark and in Temple of Doom, which you dropped a huge bomb on me when I was explaining this
you
to you.
didn't know. Yeah.
There's always like some big like challenge Indy had to overcome in a David versus Goliath scenario, in which the guy wasn't the big bad, but theoretically he could have killed Indiana Jones, right? I mean, a big strong guy, and he ends up, Indiana Jones ends up outsmarting him. He gets killed by the plane.
You're referring to the muscle bound Nazi.
Yes.
At the plane in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
And the muscle bound thuggy cultist,
correct,
slave driver in the mine car sequence.
And you're saying it's the same dude?
Temple of Doom. That is Patrick Roach.
Wow.
That is the same actor who was trivia now supposed to be in Last Crusade. He Indiana Jones and his father were supposed to encounter him on the way to the plane on the Zeppelin, but they cut that scene out.
Is it a deleted scene? Do they have a deleted scene?
I don't think it's a deleted scene. I think I've seen some stuff from it. They either didn't film it or they just cut it out for time. And I've never seen that actual scene, but I know that scene was plotted, was planned.
We should do a segment all on deleted scenes and do a chart or a pie graph.
You mean I should do that because you're not gonna?
I'll watch the deleted scene. That's 2 minutes. It's easy. That's like hands down. Deleted scene. Boom.
But you can expect me to send them to you. I have to send them to you so you.
Well,
can
no,
watch
I have the box set of Indy. I could definitely do a deleted scene for that if they have them on there.
Yeah, we could do that. Okay,
it's got to be on
definitely
YouTube.
Do that.
Right? It's got to be on YouTube.
I'm
gonna declare this is the very first Rogue Matter contest, even though it's not really officially a contest at all.
Oh man!
Send us the best deleted scenes, and we will review them on the show. That's it.
Tell them where to send it.
I don't know. Actually, I told you it's an unofficial. They can just Facebook. Come on, look, in this day and age of communication, look, there's like 3 people that watch us anyway, and they're all friends of ours. So I mean, it's not like we need, it's not like they don't know how to get in touch with us. It'll be like, well, surprise, Steve Ovecki and Brian Everham won the contest.
Exactly.
With maybe a David
just give it to them
in there.
Just give them the prize without even having them play.
The prize is that we get to review these deleted scenes. That's the prize.
No, it's a prize for us, right? The prize is we get free content. I'm like, oh yeah, look at we got to spend.
But they get to be part of it.
Excellent.
See? That's what it comes down to.
Interactivity is a big thing, I guess, with the kids. Yeah, I suppose so.
Right. So Kabuki Warrior, I don't think he ended up that was trailer trash, right? Because he was set up in the film as that secondary big bad, but in the trailer, but I don't think it delivered that. Am I wrong to trash that?
Yeah, I guess he was more of a red herring than he was a big obstacle. I would agree with you.
Okay. And the final,
unfortunately,
trailer truth or trash question. Mm-hmm. Gritty, grounded martial arts film, mystical fantasy land.
I would have to say I would have to defy you on this because I didn't get the impression it was going to be gritty martial arts film. I got the impression it was just going to be a big budget fantasy extravaganza with magic and on par theoretically with perhaps Doctor Strange, where it's going to be a lot of optical illusions and a lot of light show mysticism. But I didn't expect it to be like the Raid Redemption or something like that,
right.
Or Hard Boiled or anything like that. That didn't give me that impression by any stretch of the imagination.
All right.
So
I'm gonna say trailer trash. I think it went into Fantasyland. Like I expect Marvel Universe style like fights with glowy things, which is the Marvel Universe stock and trade, and there was plenty of glowy things. But I expected more of like the bus scenes. I thought the Fight Club would have been, part of the storyline where it was more of like a set decoration a little bit. you know. And then to go into the mystical fantasy world with the giant lions and the scruffy, you know, pillow that Trevor Slattery was with wings that he was talking to the whole time, the stuffed animal with wings. It definitely that trailer to me was a trailer trash in terms of what the movie ended up being. Not saying it was bad, just in terms of what it set up. I would say trailer trash. You're gonna go trailer truth.
I'm gonna say truth. That's my 2 cents on it.
Overall,
I believe it established exactly what it was meant to establish, and it gave you a perfect impression of the cinematic experience that this extravaganza was trying to convey to the average audience of nimrods and fools and idiots who don't really read comic books. So yeah, that was my impression. I believe that this trailer is all true.
All right. Well, let us know what you think. Comment on the Facebook feed, comment on the YouTube feed. When you download this podcast during the week on any of the major podcasting apps that we are on, feel free to still somehow message us or communicate with us, because it's social media. I'm sure you absolutely can. I think our Twitter handles are literally right there in the bottom there. So you can. There are ways to send us stuff. See, I want to say I was smart.
Don't out us.
No, but it's like literally, it's like there every single. I know this is episode 1 of season 2, but it's literally there every single time. And just so Steve doesn't have to go back and wait till the show is over to go back in time, go check out the new Rogue Matter featuring Steve Hovacki's McBride and Groom issue 1. It is locked and loaded, ready for you to read.
Yeah, but I think he's signed off now because we were talking about Shang Chi, and he hasn't seen Shang Chi yet.
Oh,
so yeah, so I think he bailed. He'll come back. By the time he comes back, he'll be done with the commercial again.
Oh my God! All right, well, when we come back, we've got not one but 2 amazing guests, not all at once. We caught up last week with Victor Dandridge, co-host of Wednesday Forever, which is another great podcast that's on the Rogue Matter Network. We are unleashing the second half of season 1 the Sunday after Comic-Con, so you get to check it out there. But we brought him on so we could do a Wednesday Forever with you, Hassan, and pick your favorite comic book that inspired you when you were young, because Wednesday Forever is all about the comics that inspired a generation. So when we come back, we've got Victor Dandridge, Wednesday Forever. Do I give it away, or do I tease with the name of the book?
No. Let them watch it.
All right. When we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wav Podcast. Happy to be joined by another fellow Rogue podcaster. By the way, this time my sound is crystal clear as opposed to last segment. Miss Jordan Elizabeth Gelber, a visionary in the field of producing, acting, and now podcasting, the host of Rogue Matter's own Content and Consequences. Jordan, how you doing?
I am good. I loved that intro. I feel like everyone needs to do that now. Excuse me, now my voice is going to crack. No, everyone should introduce me now as a visionary.
I think so.
Thank you.
I think so. You got a lot going on besides Content and Consequences, right?
I think I have too much going on. I think I am my own content and consequence.
Well, that's good. We're gonna do a micro one all about you a little bit later. But why don't you give folks a quick 30-second bio, and then we'll start diving into what's going on with this podcast.
Who am I? Great question. So yeah, my name is Jordan Gelber. I am the host of the podcast Content and Consequences, now in Rogue Matter, season 2. I am an entrepreneur, a film producer. I create content. I distribute content. I create and launch OTT platforms, and I act, and I have my own marketing production firm because I don't sleep at all.
You got plenty of time to sleep when you're dead. Coach used to tell me that a long time ago. It wasn't as motivating as I think he liked to think it would be. But so, Content and Consequences entering season 2. Give us a quick recap of what is the basis for the show, and B, who you had on last season to kind of, walk you through the first season.
Yeah, so Content and Consequences came about that, as a producer, I've been really kind of straddling the line between creative and business. And I heard so many pain points from the creative side and then similar mirrored pain points on the production and distribution side. And I realized it's a lot of miscommunication and people assuming things on both ends. So I was like, I want to spark a conversation really talking about the nitty gritty that no one discusses and like stuff that you wouldn't know, like not saving a budget for food on accident or putting the wrong materials together because you worried about something looking good versus your messaging coming out clearly. And there's a big learning curve, and I wanted to discuss it and kind of let people who've already burned their fingers kind of educate the masses. Last season, I had a lot of like performers on. So I had Adrienne Lovett, who's a great actress and director. She's amazing. And then I had Brando Crawford, who just came off of these amazing Zoom plays that he acting for a cause where he had a whole bunch of young Hollywood involved and got to do a lot with charity. And these are people that were creating content amidst quarantine and everything that was going on and how they were connecting to people through the fact that they were content creators. And I had Richard Corgan, who's this awesome guy from the UK, who's an actor, and he's also a self-tape coach. And I was just wanted to bring people who were self-starting content creators and lots of other great people. Definitely go check it out, season 1. But season 2, I really wanted to pivot more away from more creatives. Like I had a lot of performers before. I wanted to stay away from that because a lot of their stuff was like not being seen. But I think that on the other side, a lot of stuff, people didn't know what OTT was. People don't really know what television streaming is or how people are, seeing content. A lot of people forget I find on the creative end that you're making stuff that you're hoping is going to be seen. Who are those people that you want to see them? And I see content as little mini startups, and I wanted to find similar like-minded people who are really paving the way for innovative business strategies to help content creators get careers. So I had a lot of my sharing partners who are on part of my network that's launching. I had Paul Jun, who's the CEO of Filmocracy, which is an amazing interactive festival and streaming platforms. So they have different film festivals on the platform where you can interact with people and you get rewarded for watching certain things and rating them. And it's really exciting to have a place to kind of hang out with amongst people. And I'm like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about our peers and hanging out that isn't Zoom, anything but Zoom, please. And then
This is very true.
This is very true.
Ironically, we're doing this.
And then I had David Grasso, who's the CEO of one of my clients, Bold TV, and he is really changing this landscape of broadcast media, bridging the gap between millennials and Gen Z and how they watch and learn from the news. And he pretty much lifted this network from like the dead and all last year. And it was really exciting to watch them grow and be a part of their growth and innovative strategies to get young people to talk about content. So I wanted to kind of talk about really Hollywood things, but also other forms of media that people don't think about. Like we have a podcast. Why aren't we talking more about podcast distribution? So I had that with some people as well. But I had a lot of people that I was inspired by, including Philip Gilpin, who's the CEO of Catalyst Content Festival, which is where we're debuting our network, and talk about his mission and why he got into helping content creators. And the overarching theme, which is basically content creators don't know a lot about the business side of show business. And a lot of people on the business side don't know if they can communicate to content creators because on one side it's very emotional, on one side it's very practical, and where do we find the middle ground? And that's kind of what we highlighted this season.
It was a very succinct explanation. I love it. Next question that I thought it was very succinct. I thought it was to the
all over plate for me.
I thought it was thorough. I don't know about
thorough is a good word.
It was thorough.
Thorough is a good word that I like.
Thank you.
What would you say the target audience is for the podcast? Like, who gets the most out of it? Is it somebody who's in college who wants to learn? Is it somebody who's been struggling to try to kind of break into the film and TV biz? Is it all of the above? What do you think? Who gets the most out of listening to your show?
I think the people get the most out of it are people who want to create, who wake up in the morning dying to create. I think it's a little bit of all of the above. But the age ranges are so like far and wide now. Like you could wake up in the morning and record a video and put it online for everyone to see and tell your story authentically, or however you want to position your life online. We all know how we love influencers, right? But I think that people get a lot of fear. And so I really hope that we kind of break down some of those fears. We kind of inspire people to think differently about their content and the fact that you can have a career in this, that this isn't a pipe dream. So anyone who has a dream of being in the world of content creation distribution, and content creation is very lax term. There's so many different versions of it. I think it's for all those people who are at home listening to this, who have, comic books that they want to adapt into films, or they want to have a podcast to talk about issues that are important to them, or they have a series idea and they want to, be the next High Maintenance or be the next West Wing or whatever. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. And right now, there are more opportunities to connect to people in the industry at a very high level than there ever were before. So I hope that we're kind of lifting that curtain and showing people that the men behind the curtain, you can hang out with them and be friends with them, but just like everyone deserves to be on the same playing field. And I'm kind of trying to showcase that so the fear dissipates.
Cool. We thought it would be fun, being that we have you on, and we're going to debut season 2 the following Sunday. So check out facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcast and youtube.com/Rogue Matter and all the major podcasting apps where you can find Content and Consequences, to do one for you, because you are the host. You're the one usually asking the questions. But since this is our show, we figure we would flip the script a little bit. I have one content question for you, and I have one consequence question.
Tough word.
For you. Well, together, combined, that's where it gets iffy. Where do you fall on the Martin Scorsese argument of art versus content? He's very offended by the word content, it seems, because he thinks of what he does as art. Is it such a big deal to discuss as content? As an artist yourself, as an actress, as a producer, where do you fall in the use of that word?
Such an interesting conversation. Art in itself is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, not to give life story, but when I was in college, I was an art major, and there was this one assignment we discussed where there was a photo of this urinal that became an art installation. Then the photo became even more of an art piece because it was depicting it in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, is this art or is this mimicking or whatever? And I think all of us have a voice, and we choose certain mediums to share that voice. If the term content is triggering, there are other words that define it, but I think content has become a powerful word, especially to younger generations right now, who their entire life has been content and content online. Mm-hmm. Books can be defined as content. Music is content. Art in itself is content. But in terms of whether it is art or it dilutes the term art, mm-hmm. I think it's a matter of confidence. I don't think that content's a negative word. I mean, web series became a really taboo word because people thought web series meant YouTube, when it's so much more than that. It's people who woke up and created a series and self-distributed it to the world. That's so cool. But now it's web series. I'm yes, digital short form series. Let's make it really complicated. But I understand Martin Scorsese's point, because content's become a lot of social video, mm-hmm. and social video is really, self-serving in many ways. And I think that in that case, it becomes more about being viral and being commercial and campy versus making something wonderful. But there are people that have made entire careers with their films by putting it online and by doing all the right things to have it be seen. But old school filmmakers, I get why they're saying that, because for a really long time, a lot of the content was really awful and wasn't authentic and didn't have talent attached. I don't care if I get flack for that, but really it was really bad. And I missed creating art, but now I have the ability to create my own art through the methods that I have to create content. So I think it's how you utilize the term. Martin Scorsese is not going to put Godfather fan page. You ever hear what
he should. That should be his next project. It should be do Gangs of New York. The fan page by Martin Scorsese, the fan video.
How big should Daniel Day-Lewis's hat be next round? Keep going up. It's just, I think it's a generational thing.
Yeah. Hassan, I saw you head nodding a lot, so it seems as if you like her take.
I was agreeing with Jordan. I don't agree with you.
No, I didn't say you agree with me. That you never agree with me. That's part of why the show works. If
I do think that language is important, and that I can see how content would be marginalizing if you're working very hard on something, or you're spending, I don't know, X amount of months, a year on a particular project, and a platform, it's like, well, I just need content from you. You're just a content provider. That is very belittling. Also, if you consider yourself a content provider, it's very hard to raise funds, to raise significant funds for whatever project you're doing, because of the label you have. It's probably easier to raise money as a director than as a content provider. So that's pretty important.
All right, Jordan, what is your biggest consequence so far in launching your OTT network? See, this is what we call a plug question. See?
I liked what you did there. You're making me blush. So first let me tell you what the OTT platform is. So
that's called a softball.
That was a good pivot. I liked it. I'm catching what you're throwing. So I have a OTT platform, Aperture, and the big consequence was why I created Aperture, which was that I didn't understand why I couldn't knock on like a producer's door and be like, I have really awesome stuff. Why aren't you making it already? So I made a OTT platform that's a content pipeline. So we have people that submit their
What does OTT mean?
Oh, good question. It's a follow-up question. OTT means over the top or off the. It really means over the transom, because they used to throw like scripts over the transom back in the day. I forget what a transom is. Google it. But it basically means off the box. So it has all these weird terms, but people that watch content or whatever television off the device that isn't like their TV. So even though we have smart TVs now, like those who have Roku or a smartphone or Apple TV or Fire Stick or now TiVo, like those are smart devices, and we stream content. So streaming media is a streaming network and virtual networks. Those are OTT networks. So some of the popular ones that people watch today are like Hulu is an OTT network, Netflix is an OTT network, and they're all very different because they all have different terms. Like there's TVOD and there's AVOD and there's SVOD. So like more things that you have to remember. But like subscription-based plans like HBO Max and Netflix, there's like TV on demand plans like Amazon, where it's a marketplace and you purchase stuff. And there's like premium ads and free ones. Like it's really interesting seeing how that's becoming a thing. But a lot of people don't know what streaming television is or what it means, because these networks can be used for so many different things. Like we can have podcasts that we just stream on those things. You can stream, conferences and events. Like it's like having a website. A website can be so many different things. Yeah. But I wanted to have a network that was more than just a place for people to watch things, but a place to make things happen. Yeah. And so what happens is I wanted to benefit content creators, and I have no desire to compete with Netflix. So I have on the front end, I have a high quality content aggregator, and people submit their stuff to me. They go through a talent acquisition process. And if they pass all the bells and whistles, we put them up on our platform, which will be on like all the leading smart devices. And then simultaneously, I'm trying to find ways to help you create the business plan for what you've created, because that's where I found that was like the biggest consequence is on the art side, the creator side. A lot of people either didn't think past the pilot or made things for not the wrong reasons, but didn't know how to highlight the reasons they made it in a positive light. So like or they had this great content, but the owners weren't friends anymore. And like all those different areas are true, but at the same time, like I can't bring those people to other executives and be excited about it, because then people don't know what they want. And we all know that if there's a consistency and you don't know what you want, you don't know what your ask is, you're asking somebody to tell you what your ask is, it just comes off completely unprofessional. So I wanted to put everyone in the same line. And so on the back end, I help with all their business plans and I help with some of their marketing. And then I even have a bunch of sales members. So there are sales agents that work with me, and they sell the content that's on the platform and help them get further distribution. And we hope that they graduate to the next place. So it's kind of like, it's a pipeline that helps people get from I've created something to my stuff's being sold or whatever the next iteration is going to be. And so I'll go back to the front end. The front end consequence, which I hate, is just like like people made stuff like pilots. I'm so anti-pilots, and I say that all the time. I hate pilots. I said this last season, but like with pilots, people spend so much money in assumption that someone was going to invest a lot of money in their project and keep everything the same and make a whole new thing and give them millions of dollars, but they couldn't tell you why they should do that. Aside from, I made this pilot because I want to be an actor and I want to put myself in the best light. But I hired a bunch of people that don't have success yet, but are my friends. Not that friends aren't awesome, but like you're like if I create as a business and I want it to be a successful business and shine that I'm like, if I was a restaurant, I want to shine that I'm a great chef. I would have sous chefs that have had experience, or I would have restaurant managers that have successfully run a restaurant before to a level of success. But like creators sometimes don't think that way.
Right.
Oh, and I think that they, they do this as a disservice because they're not searching that. So it was hard kind of trying to convince people what they should do with the next wave of the thing, or ask them why they made it.
Yeah.
No one could tell me why they made it. Not like why people should watch
because I wanted to make some money.
Exactly. But like they don't know that like it's a whole different business model, and like they won't tell me like why they made it, in the sense like why should people watch it, why they made it for themselves, but not why we should care about watching it right now. And then very simply on like the really executive level, because there's all this like gatekeeping noise that really isn't there. Is like I feel like they deal with all these very emotional people that already are so concerned that their stuff's going to be diluted, that it's already conflicting, and they don't have the time, or the people creating it don't properly respect themselves in the room as professionals, and that like they don't know what the deals are going to be. They'll take any deal. Like if I ask somebody like, what do you want? They're like, oh, Netflix. Do you know why you want Netflix? Because it's Netflix, but why do you want Netflix? Like, you'll be in a library of other shows, or do you want to be marketed? So the business people were really, I think, over the fact that people weren't educating themselves and didn't want to deal with people that didn't know how to handle business. And on the content creator side, they were afraid that all these networks and people are going to completely dilute their artistic integrity. So I wanted to be like the middle ground, and the consequence has been just trying to educate people on this new system of distribution.
And they can tune into your podcast, Content and Consequences, to learn more. It's going to be debuting this Sunday, September 26th, on the Rogue Matter Podcast Network. First guest is going to be Paul June from Filmocracy. It should be great. Jordan Elizabeth Gelber, a visionary. Thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, we'll put a bow on tonight's episode. Welcome back to the Rogue Wav Podcast. Excited to welcome my next guest because he's also my co-host on another podcast called Wednesday Forever. The multi-talented Victor Dandridge. How you doing, sir?
What up? What up? What up? How you doing, man?
Just dawned on me as I'm announcing your name. There's always a junior when I see on Facebook. Should I be announced? Should you be Victor Dandridge Jr.?
Nah, I don't put it on there, but it gives fun talking points when my dad is like, that's me, right? And I'm like, it's really not. And he's like, it doesn't say junior. I'm like, it doesn't say senior either. And he's like, yeah, but my name doesn't have to be senior. And I'm like, you're killing me. You're killing me.
So Victor Dandridge the second.
Tell him he's being usurped.
Yes. I know, right?
That's within comic book code standard. You're being usurped, father.
It's my throne. It's my throne.
The son must kill the father.
Listen, don't say that too loudly, because though he has a different middle name than I do, my son's name is Victor Dandridge. So I got to be real careful pushing that narrative, or else I got to watch my back all the time.
You just know what your fate's going to be. That's all.
Or I do know what it's going to be. Like, I'm just like,
you just got to face it. You just got to, Yeah.
Take it head on.
Right.
Take it head on.
So
that's why Luke Skywalker never had children.
Ooh, good point. Good point.
Because he knew what happened to Anakin Skywalker.
He was like, I dodged the bullet. My kids are not gonna.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Hey, look, the Mandalorian's rewriting everything. We don't know what.
I don't know about that.
That's true.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. It's all up debate. It's all up for debate.
Him and Grogu are gonna have a baby. Watch.
Oh, dark. It's all that. This whole thing took a turn. whole thing took a
It's a
turn.
all right. It's a turn. All right.
Give into it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right? So, Victor, before we jump into Wednesday Forever and the amazing podcast that you and I co-host,
Indeed.
I just give the audience a quick overview of the many, many things you're doing right now in the comic book universe. I'm saying universe.
Yeah. Because it gets kind of crazy. So I am self-proclaimed hardest working man in comics and just trying to live up to it all the time. My new official title, and this was bestowed upon me partly by the psych staff at Illinois State University. I'm a phenomenological narratologist.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Like when they said that, I was like, I'm using
I just
that
heard
forever.
psych staff, and I was like, thank God he can. It finally happened.
I mean, it's a diagnosis. This is what we call
I
it.
say, God bless you.
I know, right? But
that sounds like it's painful. You know, that sounds like it's
something that somebody should have looked at. Like, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a self-publishing comic creator, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I self-published through my imprint, Vantage and House Productions, and have been self-publishing full-time for the last 10 years. In addition to that, I also teach through my You Create Comics line. That's where the narratologist part comes in.
Mhm.
And, it's also a product line that helps anybody make their own comics from start to finish. So if you're interested in making comics, we have materials to help you do so. If you're an educator and want to bring comics into the classroom, we have great projects and programs to facilitate that for your students. In addition to that, I'm also on another show called Black, White, and Red All Over, where we're reviewing new comics every week. My local comic shop, shout out to Comic Town, and my co-host Ryan Seymour on that one. Every now and again, you might catch me on the Hall of Justice podcast with Seth Everett. I am a huge panelist and moderator for the comic convention scene from the soon to be defunct Wizard World Comic Con. I've also worked for Galaxy Con. I've done some stuff for Reed Pop. Cons all over the place. So I'm all over
relax,
culture.
man.
I'm
Relax.
sorry. I got some more. I got more to do.
He can do it all. He can do it all.
Try.
So I thought, what better thing to do than just add another thing to his plate and say, hey, look, can you co-host a comic? Because deep down, I mean, that's how we got together in the first place. Hassan and I worked at Wizard Magazine, and you and I on the Wizard tour back in the day, through Wizard World Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
We're all comic book nerds when all is said and done.
Tried and true.
I thought it'd be kind of cool. Did a podcast that kind of was like a look back on the iconic comic books that inspired a generation.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the creators involved into the issues. So we've already aired 4 episodes. We've had Fabian Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool, talk about X-Force #1, which was very amusing.
Oh my God, the insight on that
Yeah.
blows your mind.
We've had David Wohl and Renee Geerlings talk to us about Witchblade #1, which was just pretty awesome. Kari Andrews talking about Spider-Man Reign. And
Oh my God, that
talking
again
about
one of my
Flash.
favorite Spider-Man books. Yes.
And what's great too, though, was we've gotten a lot of feedback from that too, where people were like, I never knew that about Spider-Man Reign. I never knew that about this. And that's kind of, the cool part, right? Kind of getting under the hood a little bit.
Absolutely.
We've got 4 more episodes coming out in season 1. But to help kick off season 1, we're like, let's bring Victor on. Let's do a Wednesday Forever segment. And we'll have Hassan be our guest. And Hassan is also a lifelong comic book fan. And so, Hassan, which issue did you choose? Or what series or what, did you choose? And again, in this case, it's not necessarily something you've worked on. It's just something that has inspired you and that has also inspired a generation to get into this crazy, wacky business.
I picked the Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, or Peter Parker and the Spectacular Spider-Man's mid-1980s or late to mid-1980s Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh,
I think it was 6 issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's Web of
call.
Spider-Man 31 to 32, Amazing 293 to 294, and Peter Parker 131 to 132.
Yeah.
J.M. DeMatteis and Mike
DeMatteis.
Zeck.
Yeah.
And Mike Zeck. Yeah. Holy crap, man.
Oh my God.
So
There's a reason for it. You
Yeah.
know, because I wasn't a big, I knew Spider-Man, of course.
Mhm.
I wasn't a big Spider-Man reader at the time.
Mhm.
But I knew Spider-Man very well. Any kid does. They start with the Electric Company,
Sure.
and then and then you start branching out from there, right?
You're not wrong. Yeah.
I went to sleepaway camp. We had 3 out of the 6 issues at sleepaway camp.
Oh wow!
So for a month, we were convinced Spider-Man was dead.
Yes. Oh my god.
And it was and those books were destroyed. Those 3 the issues that we had were destroyed because they were passed around in the cabin, our cabin, so many times.
Oh,
and Spider-Man was dead. Like Kraven shot him at the end of the first issue, and then Kraven the next I think the next 2 issues, Kraven put on the Spider-Man suit, which was this was post symbiote black suit Spider-Man. So it was just a thread suit. It was it was a regular costume. And so Kraven wore Peter Parker's costume and went around New York City, brutally thwarting crimes, much in a much more gory way than Spider-Man ever did. And then you have the other storyline is Mary Jane, convinced that Peter is dead because she's, she hasn't heard from him. He hasn't come back home. And then the other storyline is Venom. No, excuse me, Vermin. Excuse me.
Is it Venom? I thought it was Venom.
It's Vermin. His Vermin was a.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a mutant rat character.
Okay,
who was
I thought his name was also Venom.
No, it's Vermin.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did that, but I just made that mistake myself. But and he was in the sewers and he's grabbing people and he's eating them. Right. I mean, it's a really graphic, like no holds as far as 1987, no holds barred 1987. Some woman gets grabbed, dragged into the sewers. Next thing you see, there's a skeleton, and Vermin is famished. So obviously we know what happened,
right?
But I mean, I don't know. From 1987, it was like, holy crap, this is gritty. This is real.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
It's super dark, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that actually got me into comic books outside of whatever my comic book comfort zone was, because it was I was into G.I. Joe and a couple of Superman to some extent from DC, but I wasn't really hardcore into the heavy hitters of the time, such as Spider-Man, such as at the time like Avengers. X-Men was on the rise, but it hadn't become become the pinnacle of what it was. But people who were reading Spider-Man and X-Men, and Thor and some of the other comics back then were like hardcore comic book people, and for me, ironically, most of them were adults, like my uncle, so older cousins, on the verge of adulthood or whatever. So the kids, I wasn't that young. 1987, I was oh man, I don't even know how old I was. I was like I was 14, something like that, but I wasn't, that storyline got me into Spider-Man. Nice. And Spider-Man thereafter became my favorite superhero. Now, after that,
let me ask you this: you said they were not your books?
No, they weren't mine.
Okay,
someone brought them to camp.
Yeah,
they were recent. It was a current thing, but we were stuck in the See,
that was the thing that I was gonna say is what's really wild is that there were at least the first 3 in sequence that they actually had those. That had to be like perfect timing, because if I'm not mistaken, those books came out weekly because of how many titles there were, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So like that was a culmination of almost a month's buy-in before hitting camp in order to have those 3.
Yeah, and then to have it stop abruptly,
wow.
wait, there's no more. And it was all the way up. Oh, where was the camp? It was all the way up in Cornwall, Connecticut.
Okay.
So we tried to get the counselors to take us to town. Did not work out.
Maybe I need it. Let's go.
You have no idea. And we were convinced. We were absolutely convinced Spider-Man was dead.
Wow. See, that's the thing, and that's the beauty of the pre-internet age.
Yes.
It's also the beauty of being kind of young and naive and not understanding franchises and industry and brands and stuff like that, because you can.
That's but that's pre-internet also. Internet gave us all this knowledge.
Yeah.
Normally, Hassan, you and I joke about it all the time on Rogue Wave, though. There are a lot of talking heads out there who are always like analyzing like plot and character arc and blah blah blah. And you're sitting there going like, yeah, I used to have to go to college for 4 years to learn that stuff, and maybe come out with some sort of knowledge. And now it's like anybody, because look, what were institutions like college? They were just institutions that housed knowledge. Well, now that institution is everywhere, and you can Google whatever you want, and you can be a known quantity. So there's something innocent about not even knowing. There's no way you even know about the industry back then.
Exactly.
No.
Even at that age, or even at our age,
We didn't even know how comic books were made.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We didn't even know they were made large and shrunk down. We knew nothing about it other than that they were. We found them in our local drugstore at a certain
That
time
was going
of
to be my
the
next
month.
question.
At a certain time of the month, we found them in our local drugstore, and then we bought it, and that's and
Dictionary store. That was
that
it.
got us over.
That's what makes the fact that y'all had the 3 in order even more phenomenal. That there was the chance that it wasn't from a specialty retail shop. They had to hit their corner store at the right time to make sure that they nabbed all 3.
If I recall
That's
correctly,
crazy.
the 3rd book was mailed to the kid by his mother.
Shut up. That's
Okay,
amazing.
so but that still didn't fix the Jones because it wasn't resolved at that time.
Oh
the other thing is this Mike and I go back and forth on this show often about what he was just talking about, like the speculation fever and whatever. Because I just remember a time when I have no idea what's going to happen next, and that's making this story all the more larger, all the more dire. The stakes are higher because I have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
There is some luxury to being naive and not and not knowing that they've got 3 comic books named after the guy. They can't kill him because that's going to be a sharp dip in revenue.
Absolutely.
So naturally, when you get older, there's some things that are inescapable. Some realities are inescapable. Of course, they're not going to kill him off or whatever, but just allowing the story to unfold is important. It's important to the experience of reading comics in the first place, or any story that's being handed to you segmentally.
But give yourself some credit. You're talking about the era post Transformers the movie, where the idea of a main character getting killed now is very, very real. Yeah. So I mean, you're absolutely right in terms of
kids jumping out of windows because of it.
Because
also,
they can't do Optimus. Give yourself more credit than that. Because yes, okay, obviously looking back, hindsight 2020, it's obvious that never would have been the case. But error-wise,
no. You. I think you're absolutely right, because I do remember watching Transformers the movie, and we went into that movie with a certain sense of false security that we are just going to see really good art and special effects and some kind of rip-roaring story, and we just want to be the first in our. It was summer, so we don't want to go back to school without having seen it because kids are going to ruin it. We had no idea that 90% of our favorite characters were going to be wholesale slaughtered. So we walked out kind of traumatized.
Yes, you did.
So I mean, maybe the residual the next year, that next summer, the residual of, and now they've killed Spider-Man.
Right.
Because Optimus hadn't come back to life just yet.
That's all I'm saying.
It's and now they've murdered Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right.
I got you.
So this doesn't preclude us, Victor, from going out and reaching out to J.M. DeMantis and actually doing a Kraven's Last Hunt.
I hope not, because we
got it. I think season 2. I think that would make sense.
Absolutely.
Here are a couple of behind the scenes looks into this that I.
Before you say anything, before you go into your spiel, important spiel though, I don't mean to denigrate it. This is also before the death of Superman, so this was before it became trendy.
That's the funny thing, because Death of Superman is what got me into comics. I'm a little bit younger than you, so I didn't catch just a little bit. I didn't catch the Kraven's Last Hunt wave. I caught the Death of Superman wave, and I had the same feeling. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to bring that up. That sense of, I was young enough that the question was, did they really kill Superman? And not from the marketing standpoint of, well, what's this mean? It was, oh my God, they literally killed Superman.
Yeah, and we're going to cover Death of Superman in the second half of season 1. It's Victor and I going. We actually Wednesday forever'd each other once. That's kind of dirty sounding. I don't know why.
No, a little bit.
I don't know why I framed it that way, but I did. I did.
We're modern. We can do that.
2021.
Right.
We're even more diverse now. The thing about
post your pronouns.
Yeah. So we talked about this element of Death of Superman in when I first heard about it. It wasn't at in Wizard magazine or anything like that. It was on the radio. It was like, and they're killing Superman. And I'm like, yeah, it's about time. He's been around for a long time.
Get off my lawn, old man.
I just thought to myself, even at that young an age, I was like, yeah, well, Superman's not cool anymore. But I'm like, wow, to kill him like that. But it was heavy. It was like a heavy thing. But that's, again, where media wasn't disseminated except through proper channels. TV, radio, magazine. That's it. And you get it at a once a month. You get the news every day, and that's a big deal. Like, your 5 o'clock news, your 6 o'clock news. Now it's like
information all the time.
Everything in real time, and
all you got to do is look at Twitter for about 5 minutes. So you got to have the right hashtags, and you could be clued on any story, anywhere at any time in just about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So
and it lessens the impact, like
much so.
When you're not flooded with information constantly, it's a huge deal. Like, holy cow! Now, Hassan, before we get into the behind the scenes, because again, I'm Victor and I are pretty close in age. Was Death of Spider-Man? I don't think it was a major media event.
It wasn't, not that I know of. Now, it was. That's one of the reasons why it was so shocking, and then the way it was done, because Peter literally did, spoiler. I mean, everyone knows he's not dead, but spoiler, he literally did disappear for at least 3 issues. Like he wasn't there, and they had a replacement for him. So it wasn't like Spider-Man didn't have Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
It was just there was a Spider-Man, he just wasn't Spider-Man, And they went through the rigmarole of everybody reacting to him not being around, Peter not being around, reacting to this new Spider-Man and how that's a problem. Like, how what's up with this guy? So, I mean, look, we didn't even know because of the series ends in a very heavy way.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil the ending so much.
It's some dark stuff, man.
Yeah, it ends in a heavy. So this was before our emotional reaction to it was even before the series ended in that holy crap, manner. So it was a big deal. I just remember it was that is a comic book series that had like a profound effect on me. Like, some people like it's Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's the time it's the time you start to come to grips with or realize there's some heavy stuff at play here. Like these little books aren't a joke. When used correctly, when done correctly, they can elicit a lot of emotions out of the audience, out of the readers, and they can do a lot of things. They can make a lot of changes. They can be very heavy when done correctly. And that's just that was my awakening moment to like, wait, comic books are bigger than comic books, So yeah. So there was no fanfare to it that I know of. Like I wasn't following the trades as much. So maybe
but I mean, but again, Death of Superman was all over the news.
On the radio. And I remember Death of Superman. I very vividly remember the segment on Entertainment Tonight, and I remember my friends reading it because I was like, by then I'm a little more, I got a little more swagger to me by then. I'm not reading DC. Like by then I was into the war between DC and Marvel, which was the way it is now is amateur compared to the way it was when we were growing up.
Grenades,
Exactly. So like I'm not. Now, I knew who Superman was. I grew up with Superman and Batman, definitely, but I'm not reading that. And I remember my friend Michael at the time, not Dolce, but another Michael. I've known many Michaels. It's just a thing. He was like, no, man, when I realized this was all real and they were killing Superman, like Jimmy Olsen has a couple of panels where he's taking pictures of Superman getting the crap kicked out of him by Doomsday, and Jimmy Olsen's like got tears coming out of his eyes, and he's saying, "These are the greatest pictures I've ever gotten. This is amazing." And then 5 minutes later, Superman is dead, and Jimmy Olsen's like crouched in the side, and he's all messed up, and he's depressed and everything. And I realized that this was really happening. They really killed Superman, and you just missed out. You missed out on all of it because you don't read Superman. So I went out the next day and I bought the book in the plastic with the armband and everything, just to have a piece.
I still got mine in the plastic right now.
I'm talking
about the what do you call the real true plastic that once you rip it open, that's it. It's over.
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
Poly bag, baby.
Polygon.
Yeah. Now,
Oh
okay,
my
so
gosh.
when you're talking about Kraven's Last Hunt, though, the thing that makes that very interesting is the fact that it's called Kraven's Last Hunt and not the Death of Spider-Man, which obviously in comparison to the Death of Superman, that was the marketing focus.
Mhm.
And this was such a strong narrative piece to literally do what they were aiming to do, telling the story that was really Kraven focused. And I think that's very interesting, the way that they buried the lead on that one.
Well, it was originally called, that I recall, the mini series in of itself, before it was consolidated in the trade paperback. It was called Fearful Symmetry.
Yes.
Because there was a poem.
Yes.
There's the symmetry poem that is the through line throughout all the issues, right? And there's a paraphrase of it. There's a So it wasn't called Kraven's Last Hunt until it became popular, and until they repackaged it as a as a hardcover trade paperback. And I remember hating it, like Kraven's Last Hunt. I like that gives away the whole thing, you know. That just kind of ruins the whole thing.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
But yeah, now everybody knows it's Kraven's Last Hunt, so that's what we're calling it. I guess you just got to deal with it. But I mean, when it first came out, it was not called that, because I remember like having to look up symmetry. Like, what the hell is symmetry? I was 13. I was 13 or 14. I didn't know.
You know, look, that's a good thing.
I
Though.
knew nothing.
I remember a lot of my vocabulary came from comic books, where I'm like, I don't know what this guy's saying. I need, you know, and then we pull up the big Webster's dictionary.
all of our media was like that, though.
Believe it.
Nothing dumbed anything down.
Yeah.
I mean, things were catered to us in the manner that there were certain things they couldn't show us, or they wouldn't show us, but they wouldn't alter what they were allowed to show us. They wouldn't water that down.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of words that you just had to look up. I remember watching cartoons like G.I. Joe, Transformers, and stuff like that. And every now and then someone busted out some kind of word that's like that I in my middle age still don't use some of those words in my regular vocabulary. Yeah,
right there.
Exactly. When does that come up? When does that ever come up?
Never.
So it's a loss, I think, that so much media now is made to cater to people and not made to challenge people. But then again, you know, I mean, we sound curmudgeon-y when we complain about that. So.
Get off my lawn.
Back in my day, it was better.
I mean, look, it was, man. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not.
I
I can't argue
better.
that.
I'm not gonna lie either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
I mean, whose fault is that? We own the world now, so it's partially our fault that everything sucks.
Or the crossover generation. Like, we can understand using a rotary phone, but then also like using a smartphone, and not in the way like your mom uses a smartphone.
There will never be a generation like Generation X, because we were born without it, and we were born as it was invented, and now we are technical experts in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the new technology, in the new age. So I mean, we are a transition generation, right? And there's never going to be another one of us like that, because I mean, kids don't even know rotary. They don't even know how to read a clock face. They don't even know, like, so many things about a reality that we grew up in are just completely alien to kids today. And I mean, like, it should be. But I mean, even when my mother was young, everything that she had, we had, it just looked a little different. Right. So like, they had phones, but their phones looked different. They had, so it wasn't like there was a complete abandonment of certain forms of technology like we've experienced. Right. So it's I mean, we are unique in this whole crazy circus.
Very true.
So a couple did you knows to put a bow on this one. It was actually proposed as a Wonder Man series originally.
Shut up. Seriously?
Really?
And turned down. And then
it seems so unique to Spider-Man, Go ahead.
It was then pitched to DC as a Batman Joker storyline, and the idea was just the superhero crawling out of the grave. DeMatteis proposed the series around this imagery of crawling out of the grave.
Which
DC, what's that?
Which is to this date my favorite comic book cover of all time.
Oh, really?
The Resurrection, Spider-Man crawling out of his grave.
Oh, yeah.
It is an amazing. I mean, it did things to my brain. Yeah. And that's after I finally got home from camp and had to track those issues down. you know. But go ahead. I'm
Definitely.
sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, it's funny because we're actually going to talk about that cover in a second. That's part of the little write up that I'm reading about it. It was pitched as a Batman Joker storyline, but it was too similar to the Killing Joke, so they passed on it. And
not really though.
Right? Yeah. I mean, in darkness, I guess.
Yeah, but not. I mean, maybe the way they pitched it, maybe they changed it significantly because of the Killing Joke. But I mean, the way it came out, it's almost nothing like the Killing Joke.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You don't have to keep apologizing. These are. It's interesting to know
the talking points,
the history behind all this stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the fun part, right? Is getting under the hood a little bit here. But finally, he pitched it to Marvel this time with Spider-Man and a new villain. So it was not supposed to be Kraven. It was supposed to be Spider-Man and a new villain specifically made for this story. And then Jim Salicrup, who was one of my favorite editors. It was the first time I had ever known what an editor was in a comic because him and Danny Fingeroth would consistently put the little,
editor notes.
asterisk mark, editor note. And when I remember reading comics for the first time, I had no idea what that was. And then I kind of realized, I was like, oh, who's this Jim guy that keeps bothering Danny? I don't understand who these people are. Like, it almost sounded poetic in my head. I'm like, it was like, oh, Danny boy.
He was your friend. He was letting you know things.
Right,
Hey, kid, just in case.
It was originally only going to run in Spectacular Spider-Man, but Jim Salicrup also decided that it would be very odd if Spider-Man was running around in other titles while he was deceased in others. So that's what spurred on the crossover, and finally the iconic cover. The plot had to be completely rewritten, first of all, because he didn't factor in the wedding of Mary Jane and Peter Parker, so that became the heart of the story. But because it had been rewritten, Zek, by the time Zek started working, he had already drawn all 6 covers for the story before doing the interior art. He remarked that the iconic Resurrection cover for Part 4 was the absolute no-brainer of the 6 covers, and he completed that piece first.
Wow.
All the other covers spurred from that. So, So
that's why it's got the power that it's got. Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool thing. Awesome. I mean, but that was the crux of the whole pitch. Jam DeMatteis's whole pitch was just someone crawling out of the grave.
So this is funny on a very recent level. I was just talking about how you guys have seen Shang Chi, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so the director said that one of the things that they were doing was they were trying to look at the characters and come up with authentic stories that fit the characters. And I was like, that's the worst way to try to write something where you're literally trying to craft story around a character. I was like, I don't think that works well. I think that there is this necessity that there's the story is first, and then you can implement characters and see how they would react within this context of the story. And to hear this backstory is a direct representation of exactly that, being that James took it. He was like, Wonder Man first. No, it doesn't work. Okay, fine. Batman, let's try that. No, it's too close to this. Okay, fine. Well, then we'll do it with Spider-Man. Yeah, we can do that. And it is an iconic story because the story was iconic. He could plug in anybody and tell an amazing story as long as he had the framework for a great story. That is
100% agree.
Such a slam dunk on my whole thesis on that. This episode is going in my chats. Yes.
Story comes first, man. Story has to always come first. The only thing more important than story is character.
Yeah.
That's
or I say characterization.
No, but I mean, look, characters can't tell stories.
Right.
And stories can't make characters. So the two of them have to work together. And I mean, you can develop a character
through a story,
but you can't make a character in a story at the same time. You have to have a character and know who that character is, and the story has to be kind of a separate entity, and the two of them have to be traveling along the same road.
Yes.
The reason that I would, my own theory is the reason why the MCU is so constantly consistent is they understand that. They understand if our story is somewhat weak, because as Dolce and I were discussing, they do get a little samey after a while, these one shots of establishing a character and a world. if the story is a little weak, we have to punch up the character.
Mm-hmm.
If the character is a little weak, and I'm not naming names, but those characters know who they are, then we got to punch up the story. No, I'm not saying it. I ain't doing it. But I mean, they know who they are. They know we're looking right at them. But the two of them have to work together. You have to have both of them. Mm-hmm. You have to do your best to have both of them. Mm-hmm. And look, the everything worked on all cylinders with Kraven's Last Hunt,
Absolutely.
Because we knew the villain. Like, I was lucky also because I had watched a lot of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, so I knew who Kraven was, like from an outside, from an ancillary perspective. I knew who Kraven was. I knew who Spider-Man was. I knew with the black suit. I knew all the important details that were just commonplace in the story by then. I didn't know who Vermin was, but he was basically punched up for this particular story anyway. Right. So it didn't matter. I knew Mary Jane. I knew Spider-Man and Mary Jane. We had known that they were already married, or So when you're looking at it, you're looking at all these pieces that are that everything kind of falls apart without Peter. Like once Peter is taken out of the equation, and that's another bold thing to do. Like I have a hero book, and in at least 3 of my hero books, the hero is not going to be in it. The first one, we're going to see the hero get killed, and then the next 2, he's going to be gone. And you're going to see how empty the world is without this particular hero. In not issue 4, but in the 4th installment of the 4th chapter, which is the resurrection cover where he comes back, there's a sea change to it. There's a dynamic shift to it, because now the hero's back and he's really salty about having been buried for 2 weeks, I think, specifically.
It's a crazy amount of time, but he should have died.
Yes, well, but he's a superhero, so we allowed for it, right? We were like, all right, that's okay. He's got spider blood.
He's eating webbing. He's just like,
yes, he's all right. He's fine. We'll get past it. And now things, the pieces start to fall together again the way they're supposed to be. Now he's on the prowl. He's looking for the bad guys. He's going to stop Vermin. He's going to take care of business. He's going to do the things that none of the other characters in the story were able to do because he was gone, because they were not Spider-Man. They didn't have the capability of it. So, I mean, like I said, talking about it clicking on all cylinders, it is the definition of hero, right? We need this guy. Yeah. Not anybody can do it. Not another one of the Marvel heroes just jumped down into Spider-Man's universe for the stunt casting and took care of Vermin and took, and helped. Spider-Man had to get out of the situation by himself. We knew the villain. We understood. We were made sympathetic of Kraven's story and his his upbringing, and the fact that he didn't have to kill Spider-Man just because he could have killed him was enough for him to feel like he'd won, right? We knew the Mary Jane, the emotional, aspects of it. And then we knew the terror in the city without a Spider-Man, like Gotham without Batman, is a really effed up place, right?
Do you
just
feel
worked
like that,
on all levels.
Do you feel like that's one of the things that makes it so very interesting and very specifically a Spider-Man story? Because we all know that New York is chock full of superheroes. You can't turn around without bumping into one. So to frame this story to be so very Spider-Man centric works really, really well in the context of this story. It doesn't seem like the greater New York. It's like this area that's
Spider-Man's
Spider-Man.
piece of New York.
Yeah.
Well, also like comic books did tend to cross over back then, but it was to punch up a book,
right?
Or it was because we were having a summer event, So we knew that Doctor Strange existed,
right?
But he wasn't probably going to visit, Hell's Kitchen, or he wasn't going to go see Daredevil. He wasn't going to be in Queens, in any particular. Each section of the city had to have its own hero. Right. Yeah. So while Spider-Man was missing, Queens was a pretty bad place, without him. And no, I mean, I think today they would do that. Today they would throw as many characters in there. But I think also because of the internet and because of the way we're all so heavily interconnected, there would be too many questions from the audience today. It's like, well, how come Captain America didn't show up?
Right.
If you got this guy running around eating people, like you'd think one of the Avengers would show up and do something while Spider-Man was missing.
Right.
So, there's a lot of conceit in the old way that things were done that aided in the way those stories were told that you probably can't get away with now.
Not even just that, but the conceit of, at the time, none of the Avengers were as popular as Spider-Man. So it would be like the sidekicks coming to help the main guy, and
you can't have that in his own book.
That, right? Like that would never fly. Batman needs Robin to get him out. Robin might,
every now and then, if it was a Robin-centric story, maybe, but probably not. It would have to be Batman that would do it.
Exactly.
Well, that is going to be a conversation for another day, because we could go into ad nauseam. We've mentioned it many a times that the current generation has no idea that Captain America was not cool.
Trash.
Trash. Iron Man. Universal couldn't even. They gave Iron Man back to Marvel because no one will ever watch this movie.
Never, ever.
Because Iron Man wasn't a popular character.
No.
Compared to the rest. That's a good one. This has been a micro version of Wednesday Forever. You can catch us. We're going to have the second half of season 1 is going to debut September 28th. That's a Tuesday night because we do Wednesday nights, so can't have two shows.
Can't double dip.
No, you can't do that.
Can't double dip.
So I figured Tuesday. It's actually an homage because new comics actually used to come out on Tuesday.
That's true. And shout out to DC because now they do. There you go.
That's true. So there you go.
Boom.
That's Tuesday Forever.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Victor, thank you so much for joining us. You'll be back on the show around New York Comic-Con time, which is just a few weeks away now. And we'll dive into all the fun pop culture stuff. And by then, you'll have had 18 more jobs that you're working on.
22.
22. I love it. Awesome. When we come back, more Rogue Wave Podcast. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave Podcast. I want to thank our guests, Victor Dandridge and Jordan Elizabeth Gelber, both visionaries. I couldn't even remember what Victor has now been classified as in terms of what he had said he was. Remember, he said he was an octogenarian, subterranean.
Octogenarian.
Is that what it was? Really?
I don't know.
We're going to have to go back to the tape on that one. Either way, it was a pleasure having them both on. Go check out the new Rogue Matter website. We are done with the beta launch. The beta launch is over, and we are now live. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. We're going to be launching all of our titles from now until January, coming out with some new ones as well. Check out Content and Consequences, which is launching this Sunday night. Wednesday Forever will be launching the Sunday after Comic-Con, so that'll be the rest of season 1 for Wednesday Forever. And come back here next week as we dive into more of the pop culture talk you guys love to talk about. We'll see you guys next week. Rogue Wave.